If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement and male advantage ebook, all links are in the bio. But you have to remember what screens are tied to. Okay, so if you're gaming, if you're watching TV, if you're at work looking at your screen all day, there's two things here. Okay, number one, you're not getting daylight. You are not getting daylight. Like I said at the start, 90% of people are inside for 22 hours per day. Okay, so you're not getting that daylight on your body. It's messing your body up. It's making you feel more depressed. You're definitely not getting sunlight, which vitamin D for men is amazing for testosterone, makes us feel a lot better. And number two, you have to look at these things, okay? When you're gaming, you're sat down. When you're watching sport, you're sat down for extended periods of time. When you're at the office, you're sat down for like 7-8 hours per day, and unless you have, an active job, but most of us don't. Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be looking at depression amongst men, specifically white men, because white men seem to have huge amounts of depression. They're the largest group for suicide rates. If you look at men in general, men are around about 3.5 to 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women, and then white guys are 2 times more likely than any other race to commit suicide. So we've clearly got a problem with men, but we've got a much larger problem with white men. So why is it so prevalent with white men? Personally, I think it comes from the culture. That's where my logic is headed. I think based on the lifestyles that white guys are living is leading to more depression. But first we have to understand how humans used to live and the basic functions that are in place that enable us to operate at our best on a daily basis, okay? So we went from working in fields and on farms and then working in offices and factories. Now, the average human needs around about 30 minutes of daylight, sunlight, whatever it might be per day in order to reset or to put on the correct path their circadian rhythm. Now, your circadian rhythm basically tells your body, hey, it's morning, you should be wide awake. Hey, it's getting dark, it's late, you should be ready to sleep. And this is why we get so many people with depression who it might be 2 in the morning and they're wide awake. Or it's 1 p.m. in the afternoon and they're falling asleep at their desk at work and they just don't have that energy and motivation. They can't put a finger on it. Well, studies have found that 90% of people are inside for 22 hours per day. Think about that, guys. 22 hours per day we're inside. We're either in an office and we're at home, whatever, and it all makes sense, and we need 30 minutes to put that circadian rhythm in place, okay? So 2 hours is enough. However, we're not talking about winter here, and if you live in colder countries or colder regions and states of a country, where like California's hot, but you go over to the East Coast and it's cold during the winter period, especially cold in the UK. If you get in these areas, then we tap into something called SAD, S-A-D, which stands for Seasonal Affective Disorder, which, in simple terms, basically just means because there's less sunlight in winter, we're going to be more depressed. Okay, so now that we have all of that information and we know that the less sunlight you get, the worse it is for your body, the more depressed you're going to be. We know that your circadian rhythm needs to have 30 minutes outside per day and needs to set into that rhythm to keep you on course. We can start breaking down what it is about kind of white male culture that is messing this up so drastically. Now, if we take a look at the average white guy, okay, the average white guy, from my experience, being a white guy, from what I've seen, will wake up in the morning, go to work, sit in an office, okay, so they've maybe had 10, 15 minutes of sunlight making their way to work or daylight. They're sat in an office. Most guys don't really go out at lunch. They maybe grab some food for 5 minutes and then bring it back in the office, sit at their desk, and they're dedicated to their work, rather than what I used to do is go for a walk for an hour at lunch and come back, and I just thought that was a much better strategy. But a lot of people don't do that. However, If we think about the average guy doing something like 9 hours in an office, okay, they get there, let's say 8 in the morning, they leave at like 5, you're looking at a 9-hour day there. Well, in the winter, all the hours of sunlight are gone. All the hours of daylight are gone. It's probably, in winter, it's probably getting light around about 7:30-ish, roughly, where you really start to see some brightness that you can benefit from. Now, if you're getting in the office around about 8, probably from 7:30 till 8, that was probably your commute. You're either in a car, on a bus, on a train, whatever it might be. You probably weren't, getting that sunlight that you require. If you're not going out at lunch, you're not getting that daylight that you require again. If you're then leaving work at around about 5, well, guess what? In the winter, it's already dark then. Well, it is in the UK. I don't know what it's like anywhere else, but, maximum, you're going to get another 5-10 minutes of sunlight when you make your way home and have that commute. And then what do we do? As white guys, a lot of us will sit in front of a TV. Maybe we'll play games. Gaming culture and white culture is enormous. White guys are obsessed with gaming. White guys are obsessed with sports. There's so many sports that are on, like football, like you got your cricket, you got your tennis, you got your golf. Personally, from what I've seen in my life, white culture is very much just sat in front of a TV all day, just watching football. You think about the UK, okay? You think about Sky Sports Football. They have something called Super Sunday, where you could wake up drunk or hungover from the previous night. So your testosterone's already down. Alcohol is a natural depressant. You already feel like shit. You've got up late, so your circadian rhythm is out of sync. You've had 0 daylight that day already. Then you sit in front of the TV from probably eating shit food too. You sit in front of the TV from 12, and then you have another game at 3:30. Then you have another game at 5:30. You might have another game at around about 8 o'clock kickoff. Okay, so you might end up having 3 or 4 games in that period of the day from 12 to around about 10 at night. You don't move. You just sit in front of that TV. You only move to go to the toilet and grab some food, but the majority of the day you're staring at this screen. And these are the kind of components that I think as a culture affecting white guys. I think, number one, pub culture. I think pub culture and alcohol is destroying us. I think it's tearing our lives apart because once you consume alcohol, your serotonin drops, okay? Alcohol is a natural depressant. Serotonin drops, which means you're going to be less happy. You're not going to be in as good a mood. Your dopamine drops, which means whatever you do isn't going to be as exciting, okay? So if you went to chat up a girl, you're going to be like, well, I don't really care about this. Do you know what I mean? You're going to have that kind of vibe. If you're successful at work, you're going to be like, well, it doesn't really matter. You're not getting that dopamine burst. And then the final one, your testosterone drops when you drink alcohol. So it means you're going to be less motivated, less focused. All the things that come with that and your natural hormonal balance, okay? Not going to have any of that in place. So we have pub culture, bar culture, whatever. Guys in Boston coming back from work, 4 or 5 pints per night or beers per night. In the UK, after work, we're going to have 2 or 3, and then on a Thursday's a new Friday, so people are drinking like crazy on a Thursday. They're drinking on a Friday. They're drinking on a Saturday. It's really going to eventually have an effect on your body where you're less happy, you have lower testosterone levels, and you're less likely to get excited about doing something that isn't alcohol based. And I think that's why if you look at white culture right now, the pubs are closed, the bars are closed, so many white guys and girls as well, but white guys are really depressed about this. And the question they keep asking is, when are the pubs open? When are the pubs open? And the UK government are always saying, like, the pubs will be open on this day. I think we can reopen bars on this day. Like, it's the one thing that so many people are striving for. I'm like, when are the gyms open? When can I go back to my normal life? When can I travel again? It's like travel and gym, whereas most guys are like, oh, I can't wait to get back in the pub and have a couple beers. And in the UK, we're likely to go home. I know a lot of my friends do this, have 1 or 2 beers every night. Sit in front of the TV, crack a beer out, just drink 1 or 2. It's messing up our bodies and it's increasing depression rates, okay? I don't see this in many other cultures where they sit down and have 2 or 3 beers a night. It's just not something I'm seeing. Now, gaming is the same. Gaming, I'm going to combine 2 here, sports and gaming. Now, a lot of people and work, let's say work as well, okay, those 3. The one catalyst that all these scientists are kind of pinning this to is screen usage. Screen usage is the problem. We got to stop using screens. If we just smashed all screens, depression would go. It's not true, guys, okay? It's a massive logical fallacy where all these scientists are thinking, we've got depression and people are using screens more, let's tie the two together. And it's not directly the screens, The screens do mess up your circadian rhythm because you do have like a sensor-like ability at the back of your eye behind the retina, I believe, where if blue light goes into it or daylight, whatever, same thing, I believe. It keeps you awake, okay? It tells your brain, hey, it's morning, it's daytime, it's whatever. Now, if you're looking at a screen at like 1 a.m, obviously you're not going to be able to sleep. It's going to mess up your circadian rhythm. Your body's going to believe it's like 12 midday because it's getting all that light hitting the sensor. And now your sleep is out of sync and it's 3 a.m. and you're on your phone and you're just like, I don't feel tired at all. You wake up in the morning, it's been dark for so long and you are shattered because now your body's playing catch up, kind of like a come down. And all day you're tired and it's just a reiterating effect. It's a vicious cycle of you're really tired, so you don't go to the gym. Okay, you get home, you feel depressed and demotivated, so you're more likely to have a beer and eat some shit food and watch something on TV to get yourself going again. Well, now that means you're going to have another bad night's sleep. It means you're going to miss the gym in the morning or have a late start. See, it's a very vicious cycle, okay? So there is that, but everybody's very focused on screens. But you have to remember what screens are tied to. Okay, so if you're gaming, if you're watching TV, if you're at work looking at your screen all day, there's two things here. Okay, number one, you're not getting daylight. You are not getting daylight. Like I said at the start, 90% of people are inside for 22 hours per day. Okay, so you're not getting that daylight on your body. It's messing your body up. It's making you feel more depressed. You're definitely not getting sunlight, which vitamin D for men is amazing for testosterone, makes us feel a lot better. And number two, you have to look at these things, okay? When you're gaming, you're sat down. When you're watching sport, you're sat down for extended periods of time. When you're at the office, you're sat down for like 7-8 hours per day, and unless you have, an active job, but most of us don't. Like we said, we went from farms and fields to factories and offices. There's multiple studies on how chairs are killing our posture, killing our testosterone. They reckon it's like the best and worst invention that we've got in the modern era. It allows us to, standing desks are fantastic. I think that's something that everybody's trying to get at some point, but I don't know. I've not really ever used one myself, so I can't be a hypocrite here. But I think, that could be the future for a lot of people. But you have to look at those traits there. We're sitting on each one of those. And they found studies like testosterone drops by 50% if you watch more than 10 hours of TV per week, or 20 hours of TV per week. You can have a look. It's within the same bracket anyway, whatever it is. It's quite easy to get from 10 to 20, in a week. Well, they've related that to TV and screens again. It's not. It's because you're sitting down. It's that sedentary lifestyle of just sitting and doing nothing. You're not raising that testosterone. Testosterone is just diving down. So it's not inherently gaming that's the problem. It's not inherently sports that's the problem. It's not inherently being in an office that's the problem. It's the lack of daylight that we're getting when we're doing these things, because these things are indoor activities. Same about, when you're on your phone on social media and watching stuff on YouTube. It's indoor activities. And number two, you're not moving. You're sat down, so your testosterone is dropping. Of course, that's going to, create a depressive state. Now if you're watching things like porn as well, and your circadian rhythms out of sync, you're not sleeping well, etc., and you're drinking alcohol, serotonin comes down, dopamine comes down, your depression's already down. Your testosterone's already down. Of course, depression is going to spike. Of course, you're going to feel worse about yourself. Okay? And this is why suicide in white men is so high, because I believe those 4 things that I mentioned there that I really focused on, 9 to 5 office jobs, I believe watching sport relentlessly, like round the clock, like so much sport, gaming, and drinking alcohol, the whole pub and bar culture, those 4 things are so prevalent in white men and white culture that they create the perfect storm. And I believe this is why, especially when it starts to affect the circadian rhythm, especially with the SAD analogy that I used earlier, or the anagram that I used earlier, that is just throwing people off, especially in winter, and especially with lockdown and COVID. We're basically 23-1. It's like a prison sentence. We're locked down for 23 hours. We get 1 hour outside. I recently saw in LA on a Joe Rogan podcast, they were talking about how people can be outside for, an extended period of time or something outside their houses, but they're not allowed to take the TV outside. And conspiracy theorist in me here, but they don't want people outside getting that healthy daylight. Like I told you guys before, people at the top, they don't want you to be healthy. They want you to be inside and depressed and consuming and spending and watching. You know, if you're sat outside and you're watching a TV, you're getting that healthy daylight. You're going to have an improved mood. You're going to feel better about life. You know, we've all done that when we've sat outside, we've had sun soaking us all day. By the end of the day, you feel fantastic. You know, and they're trying to stop that. They're like, no, nobody, you can sit outside, but you cannot have a TV. It's banned as part of the law. You cannot have a TV outside. Because they know as long as the TV's inside, you're going to get back indoors and you're going to watch the TV from there. I mean, call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, but there's no other logical reason people shouldn't be able to have TVs outside. It's like, I don't know, guys. It's so silly. But for me, they are the main reasons why white guys are so depressed, you know, and our reliance on money too. Like they found statistics where, like I said, white guys are more depressed, but they're under less stress. Like they reported less stress, as in they have easier lives than, they found easier lives than black men and other men and women as well. You know, so we're depressed, but we're depressed for no reason. Well, that's obvious, you know, and studies have shown this. We have no purpose. Life is too easy. When you have a struggle, you have something to fight against. It keeps you motivated. Like, I want to build this streaming platform. Once it's built, I know in around about 6 years, I'm going to hit my target where I'm producing big budget films. I've got sports on there. And it comes together to be in the platform that I imagined. At that point, I might be 36, 37 years old and get super depressed. Who knows? Because I might not have anything to chase after. I don't expect that to be the case. But the struggle to get there with a dream that's so big and be like, how the fuck am I going to get from here to there, is what keeps me going. It keeps me motivated. If I didn't have this in COVID, in lockdown, I'd be in a very difficult situation, guys. I must admit, 1STMAN really motivates me because it is my struggle. It's my battle. It's my journey. It's my hero's journey, which is a fantastic book. Everybody should read that as well. That's what keeps you going. When you don't have a struggle, you don't have something in place to fight for, as in white privilege, life, and it's not all white people. There's a lot of poor white people out there, but you have these white men who came from wealthy families who know that if their parents died tomorrow, they, you know, inherit about $500,000, if not more. And they're like, I don't really have to go and do anything. I don't really have to struggle. I don't have to fight to eat. You know, everything is pretty much put in place for me. Life is easy. That's why when a small stressor comes into their life, they're not tuned to deal with it. Okay, they're not accustomed to deal with it. Things like that haven't entered their life yet. Now you couple that with no gym. You couple that with gaming. You couple that with sports, where they're sat in front of the TV for hours. And it's not just sports, it can be TV in general, but sports is prevalent in white culture, as we all know. You couple that with an indoor office job. You couple that with current winter and obviously the lockdown period. And this is why I think we're seeing such a spike, you know, in depression cases, and even without lockdown, we're seeing a massive spike in suicides amongst men and white men in double the numbers, because their whole hormonal system is messed up, their circadian rhythm is messed up, their sleep cycle is messed up. Everything is out of sync. Their serotonin's down, so they're less happy. Their testosterone is the lowest it's ever been, you know, for centuries, in fact. It was like a third of what our granddads used to be. Their dopamine is down at a lowest level. Add porn to that and it's even lower. And they're not happy. They don't have the energy to change it. And when they do something positive, they can't get excited about it. Like, that is literally the pattern that we're in. And then they don't have a struggle to fight against. It leaves a purposeless man. And that is what white culture has become. And I think it very much stems from alcohol and sports, because I think that alone feels like a good time. But then once you do that, it connects to the other things. You know, like you finish work, there's a game on, you go to the pub or the bar, sports bar, whatever, you have 2 or 3 beers with your boys, then that cycle continues, okay? Your sleep was worse, testosterone's low, you feel depressed. Like, I think that's where it triggers from. You know, and there's multiple studies to back it up. But hopefully by me bringing attention to this, so many of you guys out there, guys in general, but white guys especially, because obviously we're suffering the most here, we need to look into that and say, okay, we need to change our lifestyles. We need to stop doing what we're doing. We need to change our culture. We need to be around more people. We need to have more, you know, social interactions. We need to do things fun. Like, remember that guy riding down the road on a skateboard, drinking his juice to Dreams by, Oh, Dreams, who was it? I can't remember now. What are they called? Fleetwood Mac. Okay, he was riding down the roads and he's having the time of his life. It probably cost him like $10 because I guess he was in America. Probably cost him like $10 to have the three things he had with him. You know, maybe he had a speaker. Maybe it was like $50. But once he's got it, he's just paying for the drink. You know, he's just riding down the road in the sunlight, enjoying himself, playing his tunes. You know, those sort of vibes are missing from white culture. Like, we don't have cookouts. We don't meet up with like 30 guys and just hang out somewhere and have a chat. Like, I see black guys doing that all the time. You know, we're not like Asian culture where there might be like a massive family gathering. Like in white culture, we have like 5 friends maximum. And we go out with just one friend, you know, and just do something simple. Or, you know, you just call your friend once a month. Like, we don't have that social circle surrounding us either. It's a very, very negative scenario. You know, especially with, like I said, 90% of people are inside for 22 hours per day. Indoors for 22 hours per day. Now, if you're at work, guys, I understand, but you have to go out for an hour at lunch. On weekends, you have to get outside a bit more. You know, I work my nuts off. You guys know that, from morning till night. I still go for a 1-hour walk every single day. I still get outside as much as possible when I have breaks, okay? My food's cooking, a project's rendering, I'll go outside. I'll go for a 15-minute walk. I get that sun on me. Steve, the personal trainer, he always told me vitamin D for bodybuilders, they just lie in the sun all day. They just bathe out there. And that sun hitting them boosts their testosterone, you know, improves their mood, makes them feel better. They used to do it all the time because they got the best gym results off the back of it because it really helped their bodies. You know, it created the perfect concoction for gym gains or whatever. You know, men, we thrive on being outside. We thrive on sunlight and daylight hitting us. During the current lockdown, we have to prioritize that a lot more. And white guys especially, even when this lockdown ends, we need to change our culture. Because we're heading to massive, massive suicide rates if we're not careful. If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement and male advantage ebook, all links are in the bio.